We've got to trim the fat, my father-in-law declared at the board meeting, his finger aimed straight at me. You're finished. Gather your things and go. My wife, seated beside him, chimed in, and I'm filing for divorce. You get nothing. They gave me 60 minutes to disappear. By the next morning, their phones were blowing up with 88 calls before I'd even walked out the door because... Imagine losing everything you've built, not to a market crash or a bad decision, but to the calculated cruelty of the very people you trusted with your life. What if the ones you swore to protect were secretly plotting your downfall, right under your nose? That's not just a hypothetical, it was my devastating reality. The air in Richard Hayes' penthouse that night was thick with the scent of money, ambition, and expensive champagne. It was his retirement party, a glittering spectacle of designer clothes and forced smiles, but for me, it felt like the culmination of a decade of blood, sweat, and relentless sacrifice. For 10 brutal years, I'd bled myself dry, transforming Hayes Industries from a teetering relic into a billion-dollar titan. Every single morning, I was the first one through those doors, the last to leave. Weekends, holidays, a social life? Gone. All to resurrect a company Richard had nearly driven into the ground himself. Tonight, surrounded by glittering crystal and whispered congratulations, I thought it was finally my moment. Chloe, my wife, Richard's only child, was floating through the crowd, totally in her element. Her dark hair, a perfect cascade down her back, caught the light as she laughed. The princess of the Hayes dynasty, but she'd never once shown an ounce of interest in actually running the family business. I always thought she just preferred the spotlight, not the grind. Then, Richard tapped his glass. His face was ruddy from all the alcohol, a flushed mask of self-satisfaction. Attention, everyone, he boomed, his voice cutting through the chatter. The room hushed. My heart pounded, a drumbeat of anticipation. This was it. The speech we'd rehearsed. The one where he'd officially announce me as CEO. We'd talked about this transition for years. Hayes Industries has been my life's work, Richard boomed again. But every dynasty needs new blood. Chloe slipped to her father's side, beaming. I caught her eye, and she immediately looked away. A cold knot twisted in my stomach. A warning. That's why I'm thrilled to announce that Hayes Industries will soon be in the capable hands of none other than, he paused dramatically. The air left my lungs. Marcus Thorne. The name hit me like a physical blow. A punch to the gut. I froze. The crowd gasped, a collective wave of shock. Marcus Thorne stepped forward from behind Richard, a confident, knowing smile on his face, perfect teeth gleaming. Marcus. Chloe's college sweetheart. The man she'd dated for 5 years before me. The guy who had mysteriously reappeared in our lives just 6 months ago, brought in as a business consultant. Time for new blood. Richard boomed again, slapping Marcus on the back. My gaze snapped to Chloe. She wasn't surprised. No, she was smiling at Marcus. A private, intimate smile I hadn't seen in years. Her eyes sparkled with something that turned my blood to ice. I've always believed in forward thinking, Richard continued, completely oblivious to the earthquake he'd just unleashed. Ethan has done adequate work maintaining what we built, but Marcus brings fresh vision and the pedigree this company deserves. Adequate? My blood ran cold. Adequate? 10 years of 70-hour weeks, of sleeping in my office. A decade of navigating us through recessions, through market crashes, through every damn challenge thrown our way. 10 years of increasing profits by 300%. And that was adequate? Marcus raised his glass, utterly smarmy. I'm honored, sir, and I promise to take Hayes Industries to heights it's never seen before. Richard nodded approvingly. Chloe always said you were destined for greatness. Chloe blushed, avoiding my gaze, and then it all clicked into place. The late nights. The sudden business trips. The text messages she'd shielded from my view. The puzzle pieces of betrayal slotted together with sickening precision. I set my glass down. Carefully. Reverently. Without a single word, I turned. Walked to the coat closet. Retrieved my jacket. And headed for the elevator. No one even noticed. All eyes were on their golden boy. The prodigal son returned. In the parking garage, I sat in my car, staring at nothing. 10 years of my life, erased in a single, brutal moment. My marriage. My career. My future. All of it built on quicksand. My phone buzzed. A message from David Miller, my personal attorney and the only person at Hayes Industries who had been truly loyal to me, not the Hayes name. Heard this isn't legal. Call me. I didn't respond. Instead, I drove home. Packed my essential belongings. Emptied the safe of important documents. And left a note on the kitchen counter. Enjoy your new life. As I drove away from the home I'd shared with Chloe for 8 years, the shock, the searing pain, started to crystallize into something harder, colder. By Monday morning, they would all learn a fundamental truth about Ethan Vance. I didn't get mad. I got even. Chapter 2, the foundation. I checked into an upscale hotel downtown, making sure to request a suite with a direct view of the Hayes Industries headquarters. That building, a monument to my ambition, now a symbol of my betrayal. I ordered room service, poured myself a scotch, and immediately started making calls. By midnight, I had secured a temporary office in a discreet location and arranged meetings with some key players for Saturday and Sunday. But as the adrenaline started to fade, the memories, the sharp edges of betrayal, flooded in. I sat by the window, watching the city lights blur, remembering how it all began. 12 years ago, I was a rising star at Meridian Capital, known for salvaging failing companies. Richard Hayes, desperate, had approached me to save his floundering family business. I was reluctant. Hayes Industries was practically unsalvageable. But then I met Chloe. She had accompanied her father to the meeting, ostensibly as the company's marketing director, though I quickly realized she knew little about actual marketing. What she did know was how to command a room with her sheer presence. Tall, graceful, with intelligent gray eyes that missed nothing, Chloe Hayes had fascinated me from the first moment. My father's business means everything to our family, she told me over dinner that evening. We've been industry leaders for 3 generations. I can't bear to see it end with us. I, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs just to support me, was captivated by Chloe's world, a world of family legacies and generational wealth. I had always built things for others. The idea of building something for myself, of being part of a legacy, was intoxicating. I took the job. Against all odds, I turned Hayes Industries around. And somewhere in those exhausting first months, Chloe fell in love with me. Or so I thought. We married after a whirlwind courtship. Richard had seemed pleased, even calling me the son I never had. For 10 years, I believed I had found my place, my family, my legacy. There had been warning signs, of course. Chloe's reluctance to have children. Her father's subtle, constant reminders that I wasn't born into the business world. The way certain clients and partners were kept away from me, handled exclusively by Richard. And then there was Marcus Thorne. Chloe had mentioned him occasionally, her college boyfriend, the one who got away. I'd never felt threatened. After all, I was her husband. Her choice. Then 6 months ago, Marcus had appeared at a charity gala. I remember Chloe's reaction, the sudden flush in her cheeks, the nervous laughter. A week later, Richard hired Marcus as a consultant. Chloe started working late, collaborating with Marcus on special projects. My phone rang, pulling me back to the present. David Miller. Ethan, we need to talk. What they're doing isn't just wrong. It's actionable. No, my voice was steady, but cold. I'm not interested in legal remedies. Ethan, what are you planning? You had a prenup drawn up that Richard insisted on. Ironic, isn't it? He was so concerned about Chloe's inheritance that he never considered I might be the one getting betrayed. The prenup doesn't cover this situation. Ethan, this is constructive termination, breach of contract, possibly fraud. I'm not filing lawsuits, David. I want something more comprehensive. Silence on the line. Then, be careful, Ethan. You're angry now, but I'm not angry, I interrupted. I'm focused. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder labeled contingency. Inside were documents I had prepared years ago, right after the first time I overheard Richard questioning my suitability to lead Hayes Industries permanently. I had survived an impoverished childhood and built myself from nothing. I hadn't reached my position by being naive. While the Hayeses saw me as an outsider, a useful tool, I had been quietly preparing for this day. Every contract I had negotiated, every client relationship I had cultivated, every innovation I had implemented, all could be weaponized. By dawn, I had made a comprehensive list of Hayes Industries' vulnerabilities, Chloe's secrets, and Marcus's weaknesses. I had spent a decade being underestimated. Now they would learn the true cost of that mistake. Chapter 3, The Preparation. The weekend passed in a blur of meetings and intense preparations. I operated with surgical precision, my emotions locked away. On Saturday morning, I met with Sarah Jenkins, head of product development at Hayes Industries and one of the few executives who respected me for my abilities rather than my marriage. I can't believe Richard did this, Sarah said, sliding into the booth at the quiet cafe I'd chosen. Half the executive team is in shock. Only half? I asked with a grim smile. The rest are Hayes loyalists. They'll follow Richard off a cliff. And where do you stand, Sarah? She met my gaze steadily. I stand with the person who approved my innovations when Richard wanted to stick with outdated product lines. I stand with the person who promoted me when Richard said a woman couldn't handle the pressure. I nodded. I need everything you have on Project Phoenix. Her eyes widened. That's Marcus's baby. It's under triple encryption, which is why I need you. You're the only one besides Marcus with full security clearance. She hesitated. Ethan, if I do this, there's no going back. There's already no going back, Sarah. Richard and Marcus made sure of that. By Saturday evening, I had the complete Project Phoenix files. Marcus's ambitious plan to pivot Hayes Industries away from its core business into emerging markets. The plan was innovative, yes, but deeply flawed, built on assumptions and projections that completely ignored fundamental market realities. On Sunday, I met with Daniel Stone, a venture capitalist who had been trying to partner with Hayes Industries for years, only to be repeatedly rebuffed by Richard. Monty always was a short-sighted fool, Daniel said, reviewing the documents I had prepared. But these projections, are you certain? I built Hayes financial models, I replied. I know exactly how to break them. Daniel leaned back. What you're proposing would effectively create a competitor that could overtake Hayes Industries within 2 years. 18 months, I corrected. And I'm not proposing a partnership, Daniel. I'm offering you the opportunity to invest in the ground floor of something revolutionary. By Sunday night, I had secured initial funding commitments, established a framework for a new company, and identified key Hayes employees to recruit. I had also arranged for a detailed investigation into Marcus Thorne's professional history. Chloe called 17 times over the weekend. I let each call go to voicemail. Her messages evolved from confused to concerned to angry. Ethan, where are you? We need to talk about what happened. Ethan, please call me back. This isn't what you think. Ethan, you're being childish. Come home so we can discuss this like adults. The final message left Sunday evening was particularly telling. Daddy is furious about how you left the party. Marcus says you're being unprofessional. If you want to salvage anything from this situation, you need to accept reality and come home now. As midnight approached, I stood at the hotel window. Across the city, the Hayes Industries tower stood illuminated, the company logo glowing against the night sky. Tomorrow, they expected me to crawl back, to accept my demotion gracefully, to stand beside my wife while another man took everything I had built. They were about to learn how badly they had misjudged me. Chapter 4. Monday morning I arrived at Hayes Industries at precisely 7:30 a.m., my usual time. I wore my best suit and carried my customary briefcase. To anyone watching, I appeared completely normal, except for the small moving crew that accompanied me to my office. Brenda, my assistant for the past 8 years, stared in shock as the men began carefully packing my personal items. "Mr. Vance, what's happening?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "A transition, Brenda," I said, handing her an envelope. "Inside is a job offer. Double your current salary, full benefits, and stock options. The address is included. If you're interested, be there at 9 a.m. tomorrow." "But what about my loyalty? Your loyalty to me over the years has been invaluable," I continued calmly. "Whatever you decide, I want you to know that I appreciate everything you've done." As word spread of my presence, executives started appearing at my door, their expressions ranging from curious to concerned. At 8:15, Marcus Thorne arrived, briefcase in hand, wearing a bespoke Italian suit I recognized, likely purchased with his new consulting fees. He faltered momentarily at the sight of the movers, then recovered his composure. "Ethan, I was hoping we could talk." "By all means," I gestured to the chair across from my desk, the only furniture not yet packed. Marcus sat, his confident smile firmly in place. "Look, I know Friday night was awkward. For what it's worth, I pushed for Richard to handle the transition more delicately." "I'm sure you did." My voice revealed nothing. "Look, I understand you've put a lot into this company. No one's disputing that. But Richard feels, and I agree, that Hayes Industries needs fresh perspectives to remain competitive." "Fresh perspectives," I repeated. "Like Project Phoenix." Marcus's smile faltered just a touch. "You know about Phoenix?" "I know it's built on fundamentally flawed market projections, overestimates revenue potential by approximately 40%, and ignores regulatory challenges in at least 3 key markets." Marcus leaned forward. "Those projections were prepared by top analysts." "My analysts," I corrected, "who were instructed to provide you with the data you wanted to see, not the data you needed to see." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Marcus's face. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that Project Phoenix, as currently formulated, will fail spectacularly, and you, as the new CEO, will be holding the bag when it does." Marcus's expression hardened. "This is pathetic, Ethan. You're trying to sabotage the company because your ego can't handle being replaced." "Not replaced," I said quietly. "Betrayed. There's a difference." At that moment, Chloe appeared in the doorway. She wore a cream-colored dress I had bought her for our anniversary. Her expression, a careful mask of concern. "Ethan," she said, "you didn't come home." I looked at my wife, really looked at her, and wondered how I had missed the ambition burning behind those gray eyes, the cold calculation in her perfect smile. "I'm not coming home, Chloe. I filed for divorce. Your father's attorneys will receive the paperwork this morning." Chloe's mask slipped, revealing a flash of genuine fear. "You can't be serious." "After everything we've built together, that's just it," I said, standing. "I built. You and your father waited for the right moment to take it away." The movers finished packing the last of my belongings. I picked up my briefcase and walked to the door. Chloe caught my arm. "Ethan, please, we can work this out." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Don't throw away 10 years over one misunderstanding." I gently removed her hand. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Chloe. It was a miscalculation." As I walked through the executive floor toward the elevator, I passed Richard's office. The old man stood in the doorway, his face flushed with anger. "Running away, Vance?" I always told Chloe you didn't have what it takes. Real hazes fight for what's theirs. I stopped. I couldn't agree more, Richard. And I'm about to show you exactly what that looks like. By 9:30 a.m., I had left the building for the last time. By noon, the documents dissolving my marriage were delivered to the Hayes legal team. By 3 p.m., my new company, Phoenix Rising, was officially registered. And by 5 p.m., 7 key Hayes Industries executives had tendered their resignations, effective immediately. The counterattack had begun. Chapter 5, Revelations. Chloe found me at my hotel that evening. I wasn't surprised. Her father had enough connections to track anyone in the city. You need a key card for the elevator, she said, slipping into the hotel bar where I sat reviewing documents. And yet here you are, I replied, signaling the bartender for another scotch. Chloe slid onto the stool beside me. She had changed into a simple black dress, her makeup understated, her hair pulled back, the look she wore when she wanted to appear vulnerable. You've been busy today, she said. Half the product development team resigned. Sarah Jenkins emptied her office and disappeared. 7 executives gone without notice. The remaining 7 will announce their departures tomorrow. Chloe paled. You're trying to destroy my father's company. Your father's company? I laughed softly. The company he ran into the ground before I saved it. The company I rebuilt with my sweat and sacrifice. That company. Our company. Our life, Ethan. Chloe amended. Whatever you think happened, what I think happened, I interrupted, my voice sharp, is that you and your father used me to salvage Hayes Industries. Once it was profitable again, you orchestrated my replacement with your former lover. How am I doing so far? Chloe's eyes narrowed. It wasn't like that. Marcus's return was coincidental. Nothing in your world happens by coincidence, Chloe. Your father taught you better than that. She reached for my hand. I withdrew it. Ethan, please. I know you're hurt. I'm not hurt, Chloe. I'm awake. She changed tactics, her expression hardening. What do you want? Money? A settlement? Name your price. I already have what I want. Clarity. I gathered my documents. 10 years ago, I thought I married a woman who loved me. Now I know I married a Hayes. Someone who sees people as resources to be used and discarded. That's unfair. Is it? Tell me something, Chloe. When did you and Marcus reconnect? Was it really 6 months ago, or have you been in contact all along? Her silence was answer enough. How long have you been planning to replace me? When did you stop loving me? Or did you ever love me at all? She met my gaze, her eyes suddenly cold. I loved what you could do for my family. Isn't that enough? Most marriages are built on less. I nodded, a strange relief washing over me. Thank you for your honesty. Finally. What happens now? Chloe asked. You take half our assets and run off to start a competing business? Daddy will bury you. Your father insisted on the prenuptial agreement. Remember? I get nothing from the divorce except what I brought into the marriage. Chloe smiled triumphantly. Exactly. So, this tantrum of yours, stealing our employees, whatever scheme you're plotting, it's pointless, isn't it? I stood. Your father also insisted that I sign a non-compete agreement when we married. The agreement that I had David Miller carefully modify before signing. Chloe's smile faltered. What are you talking about? The modified clause states that I cannot compete with Hayes Industries while married to a Hayes. The moment our divorce is finalized, which, given the prenup, should be remarkably quick, that restriction evaporates. You tricked my father. I prepared for the day when the mask would slip. Today is that day. As Chloe absorbed this, her phone buzzed. She checked it, her face paling. What have you done? Marcus says the Phoenix projections are all wrong. The data is corrupted. Not corrupted. Corrected. I simply ensured that Marcus has accurate market projections to work with. If Phoenix fails now, it will be due to his leadership, not faulty data. Chloe stood, her composure cracking. You won't get away with this. Your father made a critical error, I said quietly. He taught me everything about Hayes Industries, its strengths, its weaknesses, its vulnerabilities. And then he gave me a reason to use that knowledge against him. As Chloe stormed out, I felt no satisfaction, only a cold, hard determination. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday. By then, I needed every piece in place. Chapter 6, Counterpoints. The next 3 days unfolded with the precision of a military campaign. I worked from my temporary headquarters, a converted warehouse space that had been prepared months ago, another part of my contingency plan. By Wednesday, 23 key Hayes employees had joined Phoenix Rising. By Thursday, that number had doubled. Each defector brought valuable skills, client relationships, and institutional knowledge. Daniel Stone had secured full funding. David Miller had expedited the divorce proceedings, leveraging the prenuptial agreement to bypass normal delays. And Sarah Jenkins had reconstructed the product development pipeline that had been her domain at Hayes Industries. On Thursday afternoon, I received an unexpected visitor. Richard Hayes himself, red-faced and breathing heavily, was escorted into my office by security. You ungrateful parasite! Richard snarled. After everything I did for you, please, Richard, save the righteous indignation for someone who still believes it. I remained seated. How did you find me? You think I don't have ways to track down traitors? I made you, Vance. I can unmake you just as easily. I gestured to a chair. Sit before you give yourself another heart attack. Surprisingly, Richard complied. His breathing labored. What do you want? Is this about money, position, your precious ego? It's about consequences, Richard. Actions have them. So, this is revenge. You're dismantling my company because I hurt your feelings. I leaned forward. I'm creating a competing company because you and your daughter violated my trust, manipulated me for a decade, and conspired to steal my work. The fact that it may destroy Hayes Industries is simply collateral damage. Richard's face darkened. You won't succeed. The board meets tomorrow. I've already secured their support for Marcus's appointment and your termination for cause. For cause? I raised an eyebrow. On what grounds? Intellectual property theft, solicitation of employees, corporate espionage. Take your pick. Interesting charges. Considering I've taken nothing but my personal belongings and my own expertise. The employees who left made their own decisions. And as for espionage, well, that would require proof. Richard smiled nastily. Proof like Sarah Jenkins accessing confidential files before her resignation. We have the server logs, Ethan. This was unexpected. I maintained my composure while mentally recalculating. Those files pertain to projects under her supervision. Projects that mysteriously disappeared along with her. The board will see it for what it is. Richard stood shakily. You've overplayed your hand, son. By this time tomorrow, you'll be facing criminal charges, not running a competing business. After Richard left, I called an emergency meeting with my core team. We've been compromised, I told them. Richard has evidence that could derail everything. What kind of evidence? David asked. Server logs showing Sarah access Project Phoenix files before leaving. Sarah paled. I was careful. You used your authorized credentials during normal working hours, which proves you access the files, but not why, I said. Richard spinning it as intellectual property theft. Can he make that stick? Daniel asked. David frowned. Potentially. Even the appearance of impropriety could trigger injunctions that would freeze our operations while the courts sorted out. Then we accelerate the timeline, I decided. The board meets at 2 p.m. tomorrow. We need to move before then. How? Sarah asked. We're not ready to launch. We don't need to launch. We just need to control the narrative. I outlined my revised plan. By the time the meeting concluded, everyone had their assignments. The stakes had escalated, but so had my resolve. Richard had taught me another valuable lesson in business. As in war, the unexpected attack often succeeded where the telegraphed one failed. That night, I received a text from Chloe. Is there still a way to fix this? I didn't respond. There was nothing to fix, only something to finish. Chapter 7, The board meeting Friday dawned clear and cold. I dressed meticulously in a suit I had never worn to Hayes Industries, a subtle psychological detail that would register subconsciously with the board members. At 1:30 p.m., I walked into Hayes headquarters accompanied by David Miller and Daniel Stone. We were expected. I had requested to address the board before any vote on my termination, a courtesy the board chair couldn't reasonably deny. In the boardroom, 14 men and women sat around the massive table, their expressions carefully neutral. Richard sat at the head with Marcus to his right and Chloe to his left. I noted the strategic positioning, a unified front of the Hayes dynasty. Mr. Vance, the board chair, Eleanor Vance, began, You have 10 minutes to address the allegations against you before we proceed with the agenda. Thank you, Ms. Vance. I remained standing. I'll need less than that. I'm here today not to defend myself, but to extend an opportunity to this board. I distributed folders to each member. Inside, you'll find a detailed analysis of Project Phoenix, the initiative Mr. Thorne plans to spearhead as the new CEO. You'll also find accurate market projections, regulatory assessments, and competitive analyses. All information that was deliberately withheld from you. Marcus started to protest, but Richard silenced him with a gesture. Additionally, I continued, you'll find a prospectus for Phoenix Rising, my new venture. My voice was steady, unwavering. The final page outlines our offer to acquire Hayes Industries' core business lines at a premium of 30% over current market valuation. The room erupted in murmurs. Richard slammed his hand on the table. This is preposterous. You're attempting to steal my company after sabotaging it from within. I'm offering a lifeline, I corrected. Project Phoenix will fail. The market conditions are wrong. The regulatory environment is hostile, and the financial projections are fantasy. My analysis proves this conclusively. Your analysis is biased. Marcus interjected. You're desperate to undermine the company now that you've been replaced. I turned to the board. Consider the source of your information. Mr. Thorne has been on the Hayes payroll for 6 months. I built this company for 10 years. Who has more incentive to present accurate data? Eleanor Vance, the board chair, studied the documents thoughtfully. These projections are significantly different from what we've been shown previously. Because they're accurate, I said. Mr. Thorne has been telling Mr. Hayes what he wants to hear, not what he needs to know. Richard's face reddened dangerously. This is character assassination. Ethan Vance stole proprietary information, solicited our employees, and is now attempting to leverage that theft into a hostile takeover. Interesting accusation, I replied calmly, especially considering this. I handed Ms. Vance another document. This is a forensic analysis of the server logs Mr. Hayes plans to use as evidence against me. You'll note that the timestamps have been altered to suggest files were accessed after hours, when in fact they were accessed during normal business operations. Richard lunged to his feet. That's a lie. The digital signature doesn't lie, Richard. Someone modified those logs, and it wasn't me. All eyes turned to Richard, whose face had gone from red to ash white. Chloe reached for her father's arm as he swayed. Dad, what's he talking about? Richard clutched his chest, his breathing labored. He's trying to confuse the issue, I watched dispassionately as Richard collapsed into his chair. Chloe cried out, rushing to her father's side. Someone called for an ambulance. In the chaos, I approached Ms. Vance. The offer stands for 24 hours. After that, Phoenix Rising will proceed with our independent launch, and Hayes Industries will face a competitor specifically designed to exploit its weaknesses. As paramedics rushed into the boardroom, I and my team quietly exited. In the elevator, David gave me a sidelong glance. Did you know he would react that way? Richard has a history of heart problems when under stress. It was a calculated risk. And if he dies? I met my friend's gaze evenly. Then Chloe inherits his voting shares, which would make our negotiation more straightforward. Daniel whistled softly. Remind me never to cross you, Vance. As we reached the lobby, my phone buzzed with a message from Chloe. This is your fault. If he dies, I'll destroy you. I put my phone away. Phase 1 complete. Now for Phase 2. Chapter 8, Revelations and Reversals. Richard survived. The heart attack was minor, but it forced an emergency postponement of the board meeting. In the interim, Eleanor Vance initiated an independent audit of Project Phoenix and requested a formal due diligence review of my acquisition offer. 3 days later, I received a call from Ms. Vance. The board has concerns, Mr. Vance. Your analysis of Project Phoenix appears sound, but there are questions about your funding, your team's capability to execute, and the long-term viability of your offer. Understandable concerns, I replied. I'm prepared to address them in detail. Good. The board will reconvene on Friday. In the meantime, Mr. Hayes has been advised to rest. His daughter will represent his interests. I smiled. I look forward to it. After hanging up, I turned to Sarah. Richard sidelined. Chloe's taking point. Is that good or bad for us? She asked. It's perfect. Chloe understands the business, but she lacks her father's emotional connection to it. She'll make decisions based on her personal interests, not the company's legacy. You sound like you know her well, Sarah observed. I was married to her for 10 years, I replied. I know exactly how she thinks. The next day, Chloe requested a private meeting. I agreed to see her at my hotel, with David present as a witness. Chloe arrived looking polished but tired, the strain of recent events evident in the tightness around her eyes. Ethan, she nodded coolly. David. Ms. Hayes. David replied formally. Still Hayes. Technically, Chloe corrected, at least until the divorce is finalized. I gestured to the sitting area. What can I do for you, Chloe? She sat, crossing her legs deliberately. You can explain what you hope to accomplish with this vendetta. It's not a vendetta. It's business. Business born from betrayal. Don't insult my intelligence, Ethan. This is personal. Perhaps, I conceded. But my offer to the board is straightforward and financially sound. Chloe leaned forward. And what if I could offer you something more valuable than money? David shifted uncomfortably. Ms. Hayes, I should advise you that any offer, Marcus is gone. Chloe interrupted. I fired him this morning. I raised an eyebrow. On what grounds? Incompetence? Dishonesty? Take your pick. Chloe's smile was brittle. Your analysis of Project Phoenix was correct. The board's independent audit confirmed it. Marcus was selling us a fantasy. And your father allowed this. Dad isn't thinking clearly. Hasn't been for some time. Chloe hesitated. He's been diagnosed with early-stage dementia. We've kept it quiet, but it's affected his judgment, especially about people he trusts. I studied my soon-to-be ex-wife. And you're telling me this because? Because I'm offering you what you really want. Your position back. CEO of Hayes Industries with complete autonomy. Dad will remain as figurehead chairman until his health forces a complete retirement. David cleared his throat. And what do you want in return, Ms. Hayes? The dissolution of Phoenix Rising, the return of all Hayes employees, and, Chloe met my gaze directly. The withdrawal of the divorce petition. I laughed softly. You want me to come back to you and to the company? It's the rational solution. You get what you wanted. The company retains its leadership and staff. The shareholders avoid disruption. And you? What do you get, Chloe? Her expression hardened. Stability. Security. The life we built together. The life you were willing to destroy for Marcus Thorne. Chloe waved dismissively. A momentary lapse in judgment. Marcus manipulated both me and my father with false promises and shared history. Like you manipulated me. I stood, walking to the window. You know what's interesting, Chloe? You haven't once said you made a mistake because you love me. It's all about stability, security, rationality. Those things matter more than fleeting emotions, perhaps, but they're not enough. I turned to face her. I don't want to come back, Chloe. Not to you, and not to Hayes Industries. Chloe's composure cracked. Then what do you want? Why are you doing this? I want what I've earned. Recognition for my work, compensation for my contributions, and the opportunity to build something truly mine. You're being childish. Chloe snapped. This is about your ego. No, Chloe. It's about justice. For 10 years, I gave everything to your family's company while being treated as an outsider. I'm done building other people's legacies. Chloe stood, her eyes cold. Then you leave me no choice. The board meets tomorrow. I'll recommend rejecting your offer and pursuing all legal remedies against you and your accomplices. After she left, David exhaled slowly. That could have gone better. Actually, I replied, it went exactly as planned. The next morning, I arrived at Hayes headquarters for the reconvened board meeting. This time, I came alone. Chloe sat in her father's chair, her posture rigid. The board members looked tense, keenly aware of the stakes involved. Before we begin, I said, I'd like to modify my offer. Chloe's eyes narrowed. We're not interested in modifications. I think the board should decide that. I distributed new documents. I'm withdrawing my offer to acquire Hayes Industries. Instead, I propose a merger between Hayes and Phoenix Rising, with a new corporate structure and leadership team. Eleanor Vance reviewed the proposal. This is unexpected. It's unacceptable. Chloe interjected. After everything he's done, what I've done, I cut in, is assemble a team of Hayes' most talented employees, secure significant venture funding, and create a viable alternative to a flawed strategic plan. The rational solution, as someone recently pointed out, is collaboration rather than conflict. As the board members discussed the proposal, Chloe pulled me aside. What are you doing? She hissed. I offered you everything. You offered me what you thought I wanted, I corrected. You still don't understand what this is about, do you? Then explain it to me. It's about creating something that can't be taken away from me on someone else's whim. The board voted 11-3 to explore the merger proposal, with Chloe casting one of the dissenting votes. As the meeting concluded, I checked my phone to find a message from Daniel Stone, Phase 2 complete. Ready for phase 3? I replied with a single word, yes. Chapter 9, the final move. The merger negotiations proceeded rapidly. Both sides recognized the potential synergies, Hayes' established market position and Phoenix Rising's innovative team and fresh approach. A framework agreement was reached within a week, with me positioned as CEO of the merged entity and Eleanor Vance as board chair. Chloe fought the merger at every step, but with Richard still recovering and the board firmly behind the deal, her options were limited. The marriage dissolution proceeded in parallel, with the prenuptial agreement ensuring a clean break with minimal assets changing hands. 2 weeks after the initial board meeting, I stood in my new office in the Hayes Tower, unpacking my belongings. The merger would be announced to the public the following day, after the closing documents were signed. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Chloe entered without waiting for a response. "Enjoying your victory?" she asked, her voice tight. "It's not about winning or losing, Chloe. Spare me the platitudes." She closed the door behind her. "I want to know why. Why go through with a divorce when you're getting everything you wanted professionally?" I set down the book I'd been holding. "Because our marriage was built on a lie. You never loved me. You loved what I could do for your family. And now what happens now? Now we move forward separately." Chloe stepped closer. "It doesn't have to be that way. The company will be stronger with us united personally as well as professionally." "The company will be fine," I said. "And so will I." She studied me, her gray eyes calculating. "You've changed. The Ethan I first married would have forgiven me by now. The Ethan you married doesn't exist anymore. He died the moment your father announced Marcus as his successor." Chloe's expression hardened. "You'll regret this, Ethan. One day you'll realize what you threw away." "I didn't throw anything away, Chloe. I simply recognized its true value." After she left, I received a text from David. "Final papers ready." Richard signed off. "It's done." I smiled. "Almost done." The next morning, key executives from both companies gathered in the Hayes boardroom for the merger signing ceremony. Richard had insisted on attending, despite his doctor's advice. He sat at the far end of the table, looking diminished, but still defiant. Chloe arrived last, immaculately dressed, but visibly tense. She took her place beside her father, avoiding my gaze. Eleanor Vance called the meeting to order. "Today marks a historic moment for Hayes Industries. The merger with Phoenix Rising represents not just a new chapter, but a new beginning." The legal teams distributed the final documents. I signed where indicated, then passed the papers to Daniel Stone, who did the same. When the documents reached Chloe, she hesitated, pen hovering over the signature line. "Is there a problem, Ms. Hayes?" Eleanor asked. Chloe looked directly at me. "I want a private word with my husband before proceeding." A murmur ran through the room. I nodded. 5 minutes. We stepped into a small conference room adjacent to the boardroom. Chloe closed the door firmly. "What is this about, Chloe?" "The terms are set." "Not all terms." Chloe's voice was low. "Urgent. There's something you don't know. Something that might change your perspective." I sighed. "Whatever it is, it doesn't matter anymore." "It matters. I'm pregnant, Ethan. 8 weeks." Chloe placed a hand on her stomach. "Your child?" I repeated, my voice flat. "Or Marcus's?" Chloe flinched. "How dare you? How dare I question the paternity when you were involved with your ex-boyfriend? Is that really so unreasonable?" "It's yours, Ethan. I can prove it with a paternity test if you insist." I studied her face, looking for signs of deception. "Assuming it is mine, why tell me now? Why not use it as leverage earlier?" Because I just confirmed it yesterday. And because, Chloe hesitated. Because I thought you should know before making any final decisions. Final decisions like signing the merger agreement or finalizing our divorce? Both. Chloe stepped closer. We could still make this work, Ethan, for our child. I felt a momentary disorientation. The future I had once imagined. A family with Chloe. A legacy beyond business flickering into view. Then reality reasserted itself. If you're pregnant, and if the child is mine, I'll fulfill my responsibilities as a father. But our marriage is over, Chloe. Her face hardened. You'd deny our child a proper family out of spite? No, out of honesty. What kind of example would we set? Staying in a loveless marriage built on manipulation and lies. Love is overrated, Chloe said bitterly. My parents didn't love each other. They had an arrangement that worked. And look how well that turned out. I moved toward the door. We should get back. They're waiting. Chloe caught my arm. One more thing. If you proceed with this merger and this divorce, I'll contest both. I'll fight the merger on legal grounds, and the divorce on the basis of your marital obligations to our unborn child. I'll tie everything up in court for years. I studied her. You'd risk the company's future out of pride? I'd risk anything to win, Ethan. You taught me that. I laughed softly. No, Chloe. Your father taught you that. I taught you something else, though you never learned the lesson. And what's that? Always have a contingency plan. I opened the door and returned to the boardroom, Chloe following. All eyes watched us expectantly. Is everything resolved? Eleanor Vance asked. Not quite, I replied. There's been a development that affects our proceedings. I turned to Daniel Stone. Daniel, please distribute the alternate documents. Daniel opened his briefcase and removed a different set of papers. Chloe watched in confusion as they were distributed. What is this? She demanded. Option B, I explained. A complete acquisition of Hayes Industries by Phoenix Rising, rather than a merger of equals. Richard struggled to his feet. This is outrageous. The board approved a merger, not an acquisition. The board approved the exploration of a merger, I corrected. The final terms were subject to negotiation and mutual agreement. I turned to Eleanor Vance. As it happens, Phoenix Rising secured additional funding yesterday, enough to make an all-cash offer for Hayes Industries at a 40% premium to current market value. The board members murmured in surprise, reviewing the new documents. This is a trick. Chloe protested. A last-minute bait and switch. It's business, I replied. The kind of business the Hayeses taught me. Eleanor Vance cleared her throat. Mr. Vance, while this offer is certainly generous, the board would need time to properly consider it. Of course, take all the time you need, I said, gathering my papers, but be aware that the offer expires at close of business today, after which Phoenix Rising will proceed with its independent launch in direct competition with Hayes Industries. As I walked out of the boardroom, Chloe followed me to the elevator. You planned this all along, she accused. The merger proposal was just a feint. Not a feint. A contingency. The elevator arrived and I stepped inside. You should know, Chloe. I had your pregnancy claim investigated before you even made it. Her face paled. What are you talking about? I've had you under surveillance since the retirement party. I know you visited your gynecologist yesterday. I also know the doctor confirmed you're not pregnant. The elevator doors began to close. Chloe thrust her hand between them, forcing them back open. You had me watched. What's the word you're looking for? Manipulative, calculating, ruthless. I smiled coldly. I learned from the best. The board won't sell to you. Chloe insisted. Not once I tell them what you've done. What I've done is offer a premium price for a company facing significant strategic challenges. The board has a fiduciary duty to consider it, especially with your father's health issues and your demonstrated poor judgment. The elevator doors closed on Chloe's stricken face. I descended to the lobby where David waited. How did it go? David asked as we walked to the car. Exactly as expected. Chloe played her final card, a false pregnancy claim. And the board? They'll accept the acquisition offer? Eleanor Vance already has the votes lined up. David nodded. And Richard? He'll fight it, but his health and the premium price make his opposition irrelevant. And Chloe? I paused at the car door. Chloe will learn what her father and I both know. Everything has a price. 3 days later, the board of Hayes Industries voted 12-2 to accept Phoenix Rising's acquisition offer. Richard Hayes, in a rage, suffered a second, more severe heart attack and was hospitalized. Chloe disappeared after the vote, reportedly traveling to Europe. Marcus Thorne accepted a position with a competitor on the opposite coast. 1 month after the acquisition closed, I stood in my office in what was now Phoenix Hayes Industries, looking out at the city skyline. David entered with a folder. The last of the integration documents, he said, placing them on the desk. The transition is complete. Any word from the Hayeses? Richard is being moved to a long-term care facility next week. Chloe has reportedly purchased a flat in London. I nodded. And the divorce finalized yesterday. You are officially a free man. I turned from the window. Not free, David. Just unencumbered. Any regrets? I considered the question. Regrets imply I would do things differently given the chance. I wouldn't. Even knowing what it cost. Especially knowing what it cost. I picked up the folder. Some prices are worth paying for clarity. As David left, I returned to the window. The Hayes Industries sign had been replaced with the Phoenix Hayes logo. A phoenix rising from flames, wings spread wide. It was, I thought, an appropriate symbol for my journey. Destruction is a prelude to rebirth. I had lost a marriage built on lies, but gained a company built on truth. In the end, the Hayeses had taught me their most important lesson. Never mistake possession for ownership. True ownership came from creation, not acquisition. I had created something that could never be taken away. And in doing so, I had finally created me. Tell me, if you were in my shoes, would you have fought back just as hard? Or would you have walked away for good? Share your thoughts below. I'm reading every single comment.